A few years ago, I explored the newly legalized industry of hemp in Colorado.
Yeah!
But the same law that legalized hemp for industrial use also legalized recreational marijuana, which was a whole aspect I didn't even touch on, and have been curious to look into since then. So last summer, on our way back from Utah, we passed through Colorado once again, and decided to stop in Steamboat Springs to learn a little bit more about what it takes to turn a formerly illegal trade to a legitimate business. Marijuana legislation occupies a strange place in our legal system. Ranked by addictiveness and harmfulness, I have previously covered and produced other drugs that are pretty comparable, if not worse, such as various alcohols and even caffeine. Yet, according to the US federal government, marijuana is a Schedule I drug, defined by them to have the same level of use and lack of medical use as heroin. Yet starting in 2012 with Colorado and Washington, more and more states have been legalizing both medical and recreational marijuana, creating an uneasy tension of conflicting federal and state laws. During the Obama administration, a policy of non-interference with state laws was enacted. However, after the Trump election and the appointment of Jeff Sessions, a crackdown of marijuana has been a major goal on his agenda, leaving an uncertain future for this new industry. To learn more about what exactly it takes to legally sell weed, I visited the Gold Leaf Dispensary and the Grow House to learn more about how this new industry is unfolding.
Hi, my name is Chris Frangies. I'm the retail manager here at Golden Leaf in Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
How long has this company been around?
We first opened in 2009 for medical, and then we became a recreational in 2014. The amendment was Amendment 64. The Coloradans voted to legalize it for full recreational use. It was up to each county in order to decide whether they wanted to allow dispensaries or grows.
Is it legal for people to grow it themselves?
People are typically allowed to grow up to 6 plants, and then if you have a medical card, you're allowed to grow a little bit more.
To your knowledge, do a lot of people grow at home?
It is pretty easy to grow. They call it a weed for a reason. I would definitely guarantee that they're not growing with the highest quality that we are.
So obviously you guys are growing indoors. Since this is legal to grow now, you could theoretically be growing outdoors.
I think the state is pretty open to like greenhouses outside and stuff, but it's all gonna depend on the city rules and what they allow. For us, we have to be a certain amount of feet away from parks and elementary schools. All of our warehouses are gonna be just like this, not really any windows. They're all gonna be bolted up so no light gets through.
So are the laws similar to the ones that are there for alcohol?
I feel like they're a lot stricter because we are such a new industry and because it's not legal in all 50 states. You do have to be 21. There's no public consumption, so just like alcohol, you have to be in a private establishment.
So for an industry that used to be illegal, was there a lot of difficulty in transitioning to a business level in a legal environment and everything?
I started out in the industry in 2012, and when I started out there, I didn't even need a badge. I didn't need to go to the state and fill out an application and get a federal background check or anything like that.
And then at that stage, that was just medical?
That was just medical. Once things started moving into recreational, the badge really started getting serious. We're tracking everything from the moment a cutting gets cut off of a mob, put into a clone tray. That is all documented. We have to label those hangers with the name and number from the plant that it came from. So if the state came in here, they can come in here and see that this is banana split number 8, number 6146. We'll take it up to the shop when we've got a manifest, so it shows all of the product and all the weight that we're bringing with some other different information on it. And once we get up to the shop, they keep one of those manifests and we have one for our records, and then it's in their hands.
But at the end of the day, the state can see basically what all of our sales were each day. Things that contain marijuana have these state tags. These state tags have an RFID chip in them. This tag must stay with the product from the time the product is just a little seedling until the time it's harvested, dried, cured, and all the way to the point of which we sell it.
Definitely took a little bit of time to kind of figure out a system, a procedure, so that we can do all of this smoothly and track everything as accurate as possible. Not only do we have to track it in the inventory system on the computer, but if the state comes, we need like a physical hard copy of everything that we do. So on top of stuff that we have to do in the computer, we have to make sure all of our records are organized too. We're on camera everywhere, every second of everything that we do.
So there are a lot of weird restrictions because at a federal level, it's technically still illegal.
We have to make sure no one's trying to push us to break the law by, coming in, purchasing something, leaving, and then coming back hours later to purchase more. They're putting themselves at risk too because the limit is an ounce. So if you have on your person more than that 28 gram limit, you could be charged with trafficking, and you want to make sure you don't go over that limit. By limiting the amount customers can buy, they're also limiting the amount of revenue we're able to do. But I think it's a fair enough limit on how much we can do.
Well, you guys are cash only.
Federal law prohibits us being able to work with federally run companies, such as most banks are FDIC insured, which is the federal bank insurance company. They actually are not allowed to work with us. So we have been shut down multiple times because they find out we're a marijuana dispensary and their funds become at risk. Everyone in the bank becomes at risk because they're working with us. The federal government could seize all their funds. That's definitely a difficulty. We've figured out ways to work around that. There are local Colorado banks that are now willing to work with us. So they're still insured, but they're not federally insured, so it works out.
Despite being cash only, you still pay all the taxes to both the state and federal government?
Correct, yeah, we pay federal and state taxing. We also pay a higher tax rate, the 15% recreational sales tax now.
With the new administration coming in, is there any tension that the federal government might start enforcing marijuana laws?
I mean, there's always that tension, right? Especially, with who's in office currently. We always have to be careful with what we do.
I'm not afraid of that, but I am always prepared for the state coming here. I think if anything, the state would come in and get involved first before we would have a massive raid and everybody standing outside in handcuffs.
Yeah. What do you think of Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions is kind of an interesting character. I think he definitely does not like marijuana. He's made that clear a couple times, but I don't think it's something we really have to worry about right now. I think he's gonna do whatever he can.
The current administration is definitely a little bit scary for sure. I don't like to think about the things that he says because this plant has changed people's lives, and I'm just gonna keep believing that and keep advocating it.
Colorado recently just passed a law that would allow us to basically be able to turn all of our recreational product into medical product overnight. So if they did decide to get rid of the recreational side, we would have a way to kind of save some of our revenue. So I'm glad Colorado internally is working on a way to kind of maintain the presence we've set with marijuana.
Do you feel like the state did a really good job of organizing it and managing it rather than just kind of opening the gate and just do something now?
From seeing what other states are doing and what's happening in other states right now, I think that we've handled things as well as we possibly could. Yeah. I think in an industry that's been illegal for so long, so many people still thinking that this is the devil's lettuce. I think it's new. I think that there's a lot of kinks and things that need to get situated. I think that the people that are controlling it need some help from some people that know what's going on.
My impression so far, everything I've seen is I'm surprised how well organized and how well the state is regulating it and making sure it's well controlled. It's not just
everybody's just doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that has to do too with people taking the initiative to figure stuff out. There's definitely things that contradict each other, which I think that happens in everywhere, but it can be hard to understand sometimes what they want. I think that there's some improvements that need to be made, but it's a new industry.
I think we've done a really good job, both the state of Colorado and then everybody involved within the industry right now.
So for all the new companies that started up when it became legal, do you have an idea of it's mostly people who have been advocates for legalization and been kind of involved in it for years, or is new business interests just a new market, I'll move in, I don't know anything about it, but I'll learn?
I think it kind of ranges. People that have been doing this forever, and people that are oh, well, this is a new growing business. I want to get involved in this billion-dollar industry. Right now, it's really anyone's game.
Are people still selling it off the record?
I definitely think there is still a black market, and I think people become creatures of habit. They know the guy that they've been getting it from for the last 5 years that just are stuck in their old ways. People will start to go out of it, but I don't think you'll ever see it totally go away.
Explain the difference between medical and recreational marijuana.
There really isn't much difference. Biggest differences between the two different sales are that on the recreational side, the limits are a lot and it's taxed a lot. On the medical side, patients are allowed to buy in higher dosing. For instance, they can buy a chocolate bar that's 500 milligrams versus on the recreational side, they're only allowed to buy a chocolate bar that's 100 milligrams maximum. And then each dosage has to be 10 milligrams on the rec side, and there is no limit on what could be on the medical side. People are learning that it can be something that can be used recreationally, but it can also be something that you use to help you with pain relief or sore muscles and sore joints, for stuff like anxiety, getting people to eat.
This is what children that have epilepsy are using to go from 100 seizures a day to 1 a week. And the examples go on and on and on.
You know, they always say marijuana is a gateway drug and marijuana leads to other harder drugs, but I think if you look at the alcohol and tobacco death rates combined, it's crazy how many people die each year, and marijuana still has yet to kill anybody. I'm not saying smoking marijuana is the healthiest thing, but as long as they're all used in moderation, I think can be very beneficial and very safe.
What is the biggest misconception people have about this industry?
The awareness is getting out there that marijuana isn't as terrible as maybe we were told when we were growing up as kids, and all the health classes and all the drug education classes that we took. I think that's kind of the coolest part about the industry is proving people wrong. Routt County has just been really benefiting from it. I think also underage marijuana use is down, crime rate is down. The other benefit to it is the tax revenue, and a lot of it's going to use for schools, for building new schools and maintaining schools, and providing school programs and after-school programs for kids to make sure they stay drug-free. As more states start to legalize both for medical and recreational use, it's something that might even help a lot of people. It might help them get off of heroin and, you know, some of the harder drugs, crystal meth and stuff like that, if they can, you know, walk into a store and legally buy marijuana.
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of marijuana myself, but I believe it's a topic that requires a closer look for its many potential benefits. And if you are someone who wants to reduce things like the opioid epidemic, it might not be best to discard anything that might be a potential solution. Learning about this process of an illegal industry being turned legal was fascinating to learn about, but the details of what exactly it takes to actually grow the plant is a whole other topic that I'm going to save for a second video coming out next week. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out other content we have covering a wide variety of topics. Also, if you've enjoyed these series, consider supporting us on Patreon. We are largely a fan-funded channel and depend on the support of our viewers in order to keep our series going. Thanks for watching.